It's Coffee Talk on FM 94.7 and AM 1450. And with me is Kobai Scott Whitney. And you notice I'm recording you today. We're going to put you on our on-demand part of our website.
Oh, very good.
Yeah,
very
so
good.
when people get uptight, they can go back and re-listen to one of the shows and calm themselves down.
When I'm trying to calm Doug down.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't like being calmed down.
Now, yeah, it's not good for talk radio.
No, but I mean in general, I don't like being real calm.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
You meet people like that?
Yes, I do. Yeah, it's kind of where our thermostat is set. It's like some babies are fussy and won't sleep, and others are just placid and content all the time. And we're kind of born with some of that default setting. And so some of us are gregarious and cheerful, and others of us sit around staring out the window, wringing our hands, and listening to talk radio and getting more and more worried.
You know what's interesting?
I should say listen to the news.
What's interesting is in Time Magazine they have whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, and when I filled out the questionnaire, I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
Because there's and like Romney's an introvert, and that's part of the problem he has out on the campaign trail, because he's more guarded. And then Obama is considered to be an introvert. Bush was an extrovert.
Right. The thing is that introverts, you'll find many actors, for instance, are introverts, and writers. You wouldn't think actors would be, but acting, maybe like radio for you, acting gives you a place to channel this incredible power that you can have over an audience. I've listened to actors interviewed, and they're very shy. Many of them are very shy people in ordinary life, can't stand the fame or being recognized all the time. Didn't plan on any of that, but when they're on stage, they become a different person, and they talk about channeling. Like, I just became Hamlet. There's no question, and so they find themselves. You can see this even in local, like high school musicals or amateur theatricals that we do a lot out here. People who are church mice all of a sudden turn into this wonderful personality on stage because they have the Latin word persona comes from the mask that used to be worn, from the combination of words personare, what you make the sound with. Okay, so your persona is the mask that you make the sound with, your personality. When we're young, we're always experimenting, developing our personality. Little kids, try all sorts of things. They play house, they play doctor, they play let's have a tea party, and then there's the girls. They
You're laughing. Watch out, girls. I don't know what you're going to say here.
Okay, yeah. We'll get some calls. Anyway, so it is kind of amazing that some of us are given permission. I feel that when I'm doing a service sometimes, like that I'm channeling something I don't understand. And I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I'm always impressed out here with the amount of talent we have, not just in the kids, but in the adults. We've got great musicians, great artists, and craftsmen, and
actors,
chefs, great chefs. We should do a program on that one of these days.
Chefs?
Yeah.
You mean? Well, bring people in.
Well, yeah.
Because I'm gonna be talking with Kathy Casey, who is a well-known chef, and that is going to be because she's going to be at the Clam Festival. And what's the date that I have her on? I have to look. It's it's on the 21st. Kathy Casey. She's known worldwide. In fact, she's just came back from the Ukraine.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so she's travels all over the world doing stuff. She's in Vegas now.
Yeah. Well, we've had incredible chefs out here, too, at different times. And we do right now, too.
Like Ocean Crest. And,
Yeah.
of course, now they have to rebuild the restaurant. But.
Right. Well, we had people like Pierre Gabelli, who's now I think he's in Texas. Mm-hmm. But he was a wonderful chef.
Yeah.
He was wonderful. I learned a lot from Pierre. So anyway, let me tell you about a project that we're doing, Plum Mountain's doing. We're going to do, we're going to call it the EBT Cooking School. EBT stands for Electronic Benefits Transactions, I believe. It's really the food stamp card. It's the electronic version of food stamps. Right. We've changed the name. We're not calling it that. It's going to be called the Community Cooking Class. What we need to do is that I've noticed that the food banks, for instance, give huge amounts of certain things, like oats, rice, beans, stuff that's actually quite healthy for you.
And staples.
And staples. Mm-hmm. We used to call it commodity cheese, and we have some really good food banks around here. But many of the younger people especially don't have a clue how to cook some of this stuff. And so we're going to start having a cooking class and invite people who are volunteers who work in the food banks and other food programs like WIC or from DSHS or the Extension Division, and all cook together and make a big lunch and talk about food and talk about what our family recipes were and out here gourmet is like tater tot casserole. That's Grays Harbor gourmet.
That's good stuff, though.
I know. Fortunately for me, Buddhists are not prohibited from eating tater tots.
Really?
I love them.
What can't you eat if you're a Buddhist?
Nothing.
Oh, you can eat anything you want.
Just about. Yeah.
Okay.
Just don't slaughter anything specifically for yourself, or make your living slaughtering. That's
so if you're a meat packer, if you work in a meat packing plant, you can't be a Buddhist.
You can.
Okay.
But you need to come to terms with the karma, the cause and effect of your livelihood. Okay. That's one reason we call them meat packers and not butchers anymore. There's a very good reason for changing that job, not description, but the job title. The big companies like that do chicken processing and other kinds of meat stuff, they are importing workers. They're importing Pacific Islanders. They're importing people from Laos, Vietnam, to work in the meatpacking plants.
But is this legal? Do they get green cards or something?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not disputing the
That's
legality.
what you mean by importing. Okay.
Yeah, but what I mean here is that those are awful jobs. To repetitively be around the dander of chickens, for instance, or I don't know if you call it dander, whatever, but feathers flying
right.
in the air and the screams of animals dying, it gets to people. So you can be a Buddhist and do that, but you've got to deal with the karma.
What's the karma? You'll end up in a can of man in another life?
No. That's
You're
that's
food
an old
now, buddy.
That's an old understand. That's the sort of Hindu understanding of karma, that it's your fate. Buddhism just translate the word karma as cause and effect, and you've got the Buddhist rendition of that. That was one of the major innovations that the historical Buddha made, was saying, no, you do not have to live up to your fate. And he was the first one to ordain people in all castes In his time, there were only 4 main castes, and then that got elaborated over centuries to umpteen. I think there's 60 something now.
Of course, now we have classes. People don't think about it, but they are. You've got the very poor, the middle class, the upper middle class, the rich, the very rich. But in a sense, it's classes.
Oh yeah,
they live in a whole different world from each other.
Exactly, and the other difficult thing is that for Americans, class is almost as taboo a subject as sex, but also domestic violence, for instance. We don't like to talk about it. We don't like to admit that maybe it's going on in our neighborhood or in our family, our extended family. So we don't talk about it. So each culture has stuff like this that we don't talk about, or that we refer to as with euphemisms.
Well, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be right back. Kobai Scott Whitney is with us today, and as always, your calls are welcome at 533-5259, 533-KBKW. On FM 94.7 and AM 1450. With me is Kobai Scott Whitney, and we're talking about karma and that sort of thing. Do you think people, in a sense, what goes around comes around, so on and so forth? To me, that's always been an instinctive thought that I've had long before, even when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it something came to mind that's part of the cycle of how things work in the universe long before anybody ever told me.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, any of us who are kids know that our mothers always found out. It's uncanny, and it does begin to give us the concept of a higher power. So it's hard to get away with stuff, and so I think that gets into kids. I was, I don't know if I've told this story, but I was the child of a school teacher, and we lived in a small town, and my aunt was the principal of the school I went to. And so when it came time for kindergarten, I was already, I knew the whole drill. Mm-hmm. And that first kindergarten teacher, halfway through the morning period, burst into tears. She couldn't handle it. And but anyway, that kind of unnerves you when your kindergarten teacher can't handle.
Oh, and that was because you were related to the...
No. She just couldn't handle the chaos of all these, the first day kindergarten. Yeah, she broke down. Anyway, I hate to admit this, but somehow I pushed another kid off the steps of this. Oh yeah, of this elementary school with impunity, because my mom was on the staff and my aunt was the principal.
So you took advantage of that then?
My thinking was a little twisted. It didn't work at all. As soon as I got home, my mom knew exactly what had happened, and I was marched the next day to the principal, my aunt, to apologize, and to the boy I had pushed to apologize. It was karma.
Yeah, see. Then.
Cause and effect.
Well, let's go to our listener line. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, Scott, Doug.
Oh, hey. Good morning.
Hey, it's Ray here. Hey, I think that's a great thing you're doing on these cooking classes, because I do think that is a major failing in our society, is this instant foods and stuff. In the old days when we were kids, our parents didn't buy that kind of stuff. For one thing, Hamburger Helper wasn't even invented when I was a kid. It came out later than that, I believe. At least I didn't see it anyways. But your mother and my mothers, and most mothers, would probably just go down and buy a sack of potatoes. And sometimes around here you can buy a sack of potatoes for $1.29 for 10 pounds.
That's right.
So for $20 you can buy a year's worth of potatoes. You can't eat that many potatoes in a year. And something like oatmeal, if you go over to the health food store, you can buy it for roughly 59 cents a pound.
Yeah.
Now, a person can only eat about 10 cents worth of oatmeal in the morning. And cooking oatmeal is this hard. Put the water on,
yes,
let it boil.
I know.
Then when it's done, when it boils, turn it off. Okay, I just want to say that a few times. Put the oatmeal in, stir it around, put the lid back on, Come back in 15 to 20 minutes, and you've got oatmeal.
Someone told me about. I was complaining probably about having so many oats, and so what to do with leftover oatmeal. I made oatmeal for a bunch of people that were coming to breakfast, and only half of them showed up. What do I do with that already made oatmeal? And this friend of mine pointed me to a recipe, a very old recipe in Joy of Cooking, called oatmeal sheet cake. And you just mix it up with an egg and some flour and some other ingredients, and put it in a pan, and you've got this delicious sheet cake that you can put almost any sweet leftover in.
Yep.
I mean, I've dumped a couple of plums or cherries, or trying to get rid of some jam that I didn't like particularly. Just dump it in there, and it all works. It's a very flexible recipe.
If you want to see some really interesting ways that you can live and live reasonably, look on YouTube for $1 a day meals.
Okay.
And you can see just people who really go out of their way to say, hey, listen, you don't need to eat this garbage that they're feeding us. You're paying too much for it. Get back to wholesome, real food. And then we won't look like we can't fit through the Walmart doors.
Right.
Well, I'm going to have to let you go because we're out of time.
Good having you on.
Bye-bye.
I was going to say, too, that...
I'm taking a break.
Okay.
Yeah, it's break time, and then we'll be back after our newscast.